Well, good night, everyone. How y'all doing? It's been a long time. It felt like forever. But you know what? I'm here again with you. So good night to all of you. Call your friends, call your neighbor, call your grandmother, call everybody. Just let them know advancing the cause is on again. And we're going to be rocking this show. You know, we have two wonderful young men who are going to be joining us pretty soon. So we can talk about a couple of things. But APNU family, non-APNU family, Guyanese here, Guyanese across the diaspora, Guyanese every single where, good night to you. And here we are for another episode of Advancing the Cause. Well, you know, this story is hot right now. You know the story, I know the story. And we're going to talk a little about that whole elections fiasco. We're going to talk about some of what transpired. We're going to talk about how we felt about the results of the elections and what we felt could have been done. But before I go there, let me give a couple of shout outs. Happy birthday to quite a lot of persons. I'm not going to call the names. I have a whole long list. If I start calling names, I'm going to find myself in trouble. So happy birthday to all those of you who would have celebrated your birthday yesterday, the day before, and today. Happy birthday to you, and may God continue to bless you. And of course, while we are sending out happy birthday greetings, we want to extend condolences to those who would have lost loved ones. It's not easy to lose a loved one, but we want to ask that God will bless you and He will give you the comfort you need at this time. And so, yes, here we are with what's happening. We had our elections. Of course, we're happy that the elections were peaceful. We had a peaceful elections. We hadn't any kind of ruffling here and ruffling there and protest here and protest there. I'm not saying that the protests and so on will not come, but I'm saying that elections date was very peaceful. What we found happening on elections day was quite alarming, and what happened after when we got the results. With me in studio, who's going to be joining us in studio first, is a very fine young man. You know him, I know him. He's no stranger to these kinds of forum. And so he is going to be joining me this evening. And we're going to talk a little about GCOM, what we think should have happened there, what they should not have done, and how things would have been different if GCOM had adhered to all of those recommendations that were given to them by those observers, Carter Center, OAS, CARICOM, and everybody else. And so we're going to bring him in studio just now. We're going to bring him in studio. But while we're trying to get him in studio or get him on the platform, we are going to let you know that APNU is here to stay. Let me tell you that. APNU is here to stay. And it doesn't matter who tried to squeeze us here and to squeeze us out. They can't squeeze us out. What they're going to do is to knock us down. But we're not going to stay down. And you would know that. As a teacher, I would tell my learners, you cannot stay down. You might get 0, you might get 1, you might get 2 as your score in a test, but that does not determine your final destination. And so APNU will continue to put people first. We've already been doing even what we've already started doing, or we're continuing to do, let me say that, what we've been doing all along, and that is helping our people. Quite a lot of them have started to feel the squeeze, and we will continue to assist them. So right here with me this evening, we have a fine gentleman. You know him very well. And here he is with us. How are you tonight, my brother?
Blessing the night. Poor people governor with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. I'm responsible for what I say, not what you interpret. Good night, Miss McDonald.
Good
Thanks
night.
for having me.
Well, thanks for having you here, because I know that you were supposed to have been elsewhere, but I know it's because of your love for Guyana. You are still here, and you are here meeting our people and trying to give the kind of comfort and support that they need coming out of this whole shock that we've experienced at the elections. Your thoughts about 2025, elections 2025?
Well, first and foremost, I must say that it's neither fear. Look, from day one, I've walked the ground. From the time I came to Guyana, I've walked the ground with our people, and there was one cry throughout Guyana. They need change, they need change, they need change. GCOM was on the top of everyone's list. They refused to adhere to instructions that was given to them from 2020, where the Commonwealth and all the observers had one report. And GCOM continuously refused to engage on any of the report. Yet still we went to an election with a compromise list, and the results has shown that neither free nor fair. That's the first point I want to make. Guyanese have it's still a time that I'm lost for words pertaining to this election and the results that we find ourselves with, because I'm, for some strange reason, as poor people governor would say, people like punishment, because I don't know how we find ourselves here. The evidence of all kind of egalities throughout the elections period. I work at the back school. There were a lot of hiccups there. GCOM tends to pay no attention to none of them. So my take wholeheartedly is that it was not fair. It was never a free nor fair elections, and that's why we have the results that we have.
Well, when you talk about the elections not being free, not being fair, would you want to tell us a little more about that? Because I know quite a lot of people would have looked at what transpired. They saw persons going in there, electors going in there, voting and so on. But yet we talk about the elections not being free and fair. What do you exactly what do you mean when you talk about the elections not being free and fair?
Okay, so some of the points that I noticed on E-Day of itself is the persons that was trained by GCOM, the POs that was trained by GCOM, some were not competent enough to know well some of GCOM own rules to play by their book. So that opened the gap for illegal activities to transpire, whereby polling agents, persons outside of GCOM have to tell the polling agents what to do. And then there were a lot of, at counting, they were closing the doors on representatives from various parties, APNU supporters and that kind of stuff. So at the end of the counting, you didn't have a fair opportunity to, verify anything that was going on there. That make it not credible. And there's a lot more that my head just can't wrap around at the present moment. That's the truth.
Well, we know we talk about the list being bloated, and that was the cry from ever of old. Before 2020, while Barrow Jagdeo sat there as the opposition leader, there was this cry for a clean list. There was the cry for biometrics. But then we saw when they came into government, it was Hallelujah Square. They weren't interested in cleaning that list or cleansing that list. They weren't interested in having biometrics. And then you hear all sorts of comments. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, the other. All kinds of crazy things you started hearing. But with all of that, where do we stand now as a people with this very government who you hear them talk about one Guyana? Are you comfortable that we are living in a one Guyana, or we're going to have one Guyana from this day forward?
No, definitely not. And to add to the list of itself, you see, the list serves the PPP. They're in power, it serves them. The bloated list serves them well. So they use it to their advantage. If they're in opposition, they will try to get the list clean and changed like he was touting when he was in opposition. You see, the fact of the matter is that it's an illegal government, a corrupted government, so they will enjoy anything that is corrupted and illegal, such as a bloated list. That's the fact. And we suffer the consequences of that bloated list, where APNU were protesting for years, 4 years, protesting, We didn't see win on the line. We didn't see the PPP on the line to add to the cost to get a clean voters list. So the results, this is what we face with a bloated list. And to say, Miss Claudette, I don't know. I think we should start there. She should go with the list. Whilst we cleaning the list, we should clean her out. She needs to go.
And you know, quite a lot of persons, I noticed a few dancing around and they're talking about the PNC done and APNU will not be again and all kinds of things. But you see, people can say these things because they're ignorant of a lot of things. If you know your history, then you wouldn't say those things, because the PNC would have lost in several elections. We had the PPP there for 23 years. And after 23 years, we had APNU that came there again. So when people talk about PNC would never, then we had the PPP there for 28 years. So I don't understand. And this just tells you sometimes the mindset of some of our people who really don't want to have a Guyana with a motto that says one people, one nation, one destiny. But like everything else, Guyanese people, we are going to strive to ensure that this country is governed by good governance, that this country is governed by a government that will exhibit the characteristics of good governance.
Correct.
That is what we want to have. And so again, I will say to all of our supporters out there, don't feel too despondent. It's like a boxing match. You get knocked down, but what is important is how you rise up again and what you do after that. So don't feel too discouraged. We are here and we are going to ensure that when we come again, it's going to be even better than before. And yes, we hear people talking about, and your supporters went to win, and your supporters went to win. And what do you think would have cost some of that?
So before we go to what caused some of that, I want you to look me carefully and listen. Now the PNC is here to stay. The APNU is here to stay. We ain't got nowhere to go. We fight a good fight. We had the best manifesto. We had the best candidate. We had a bunch of professionals. If I start calling the name, I might left off some. We fought a good fight. The people choose to take finance, money. Look, one guy told me straight, Mr. Norton got a good campaign he running. He got a house lot that he given. He promised me to give me a house lot, but when they giving me 30,000, and I take in 30,000 because my daughter hungry. You know, when you're up against the kind of challenge, it's hard to refuse because the people were put in a position of dependence. So we ain't got a choice, you know, when we and for me, I can't beat up on persons that would grab at a 30,000 instead of waiting on a house lot. They say it's promises, but my take is that our people have lost the way, but we're here to stay. APNU is going to do it. We're going to come back bigger and better. So you could tell the Jagabats we ain't got nowhere to go.
But
we here.
You know, I'm happy that you were saying that. I'm sure many of our viewers who are viewing here, they're quite happy to hear that. Our people were forced into a position where their backs were against the wall. They couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. And the few who had got a cleaning contract here or got a cleaning contract there or a little thing so or a little thing so, that was only about a few, but the masses were still struggling. And so when you have somebody who come out there and decided they're going to give you a $30,000 or a $50,000 to vote for them, it was about survival. That is what it was about, survival. And whether the people whether you want to say the people were genuine and they sell out or they're not loyal, we have to understand the context in which what would have forced the people to go here and to go there. And of course, we can't forget, you had a whole lot of buy-in, a whole lot of vote buy-in. Outside of the little things, we saw all the promotions for the ranks in the Guyana police force and all of these things.
I see our people had an opportunity. They grab the opportunity. They think that they want to change. They go where they think that change. We had a regime before that leave a lot of hurt on our people. I walked the road, the people still complaining that they weren't treated fairly under our regime, so they wanted to give Win a chance. My thing is, they have given Win a chance. They will see what Win can do. And we're not here to beat you up. You given a chance. This is your party. This is home. We open arms and accept you back home. It's as simple as that. But a point I want to make is that the Jaglio regime have created a society, a number of persons under his regime that is dependent. That is his legacy. They did not educate them well. Some don't deal with history and that kind of stuff. So when we look at the younger generation, you know, they're putting Jaglio of himself and the PPP put him in a dependent position where they depend on the government for everything. And they're this, you know, looking for it culture, as we would say, the looking for it, everybody looking for it. You stop this body looking for something, the body looking for something. You know, it's a sad state that we had 28 years of the PPP, but they have not created a generation that could say, well, yes, we're well educated, we're standing on our own. We still looking for got a contract here and a contract there and $1 million contract there and some foolish busting here, there, and everywhere. But if we had good governance coming from the PPP over the 28 years, we want to be put in this position. But yeah, they would stand and say their governance is about building roads and building this and that without focusing on people of themselves, whereby we had a people-centered development strategy that would cater for every single person in Guyana, throughout Guyana.
And you forgot to mention one thing, that our party is an inclusive party.
Correct.
We don't stigmatize, we don't victimize, we don't marginalize. We see persons here, the citizens here as Guyanese. And so we would do for this set and that set and the other set, not like what we are seeing happening. And just recently we saw this happening where the Ministry of Health, they have a training program, and you would have seen regions 7 and 9 completely left out of that. And here we still hear about this one Guyana and this one Guyana and this one Guyana. And, you know, you sometimes wonder, is it because Region 10 and Region 7 voted wholly and solely for Win that the citizens there are going to be punished? You know, sometimes you wonder when you hear these people talk about democracy and we live in a democratic society. But before we go any further, we have Dr. Todd, who is going to be joining us. And we don't want to continue this conversation without him, because I think he is going to bring a little more into this when it comes to the aspect of dealing with the law. We're going to take just a very short break, and so that we can bring Dr. Todd right in, so we can continue right here. Just hold for us, a little break we're taking, just to ensure that we have Dr. Todd sitting in here with us.
Share the live in the meantime. Don't waste time.
Right. So, oh my gosh. Dexter Todd, you're here. Dr. Todd, you're here.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
Welcome to Advancing the Cause. I know this is your first appearance here on
Mhm.
Advancing the Cause. And what a time.
Yes,
I know we were trying to have you on before, but I think everything happens at the right
at the
time.
right time.
You're here. And if right behind you it is saying APNU putting people first, putting Guyana first. We're going to talk a little about Dexter Todd. And
Mhm.
then we're going to talk about Dexter Todd as the politician and your experience during this elections. You're going to talk to us first as a politician, and then you're going to talk to us as an attorney.
Um, Thank you so much for having me again, and good night to all your viewers. Um, what can I say, and how, where to start? I believe throughout this campaign, I've had an opportunity to walk the streets and to look at a number of issues in various communities. Um, Years ago, I started by saying my first area of study was international relations slash political science.
Mhm.
Um, I was way many years ago. I had all intentions of being a politician,
Wow.
and uh, and then I changed course a bit, and I said, at that time, I believe there were so many inspiring political leaders that
Mhm.
I believe helped to inspire me in and to recognize that that we can do better in Guyana. And so it was that level of conviction. It wasn't an issue of um, wanting anything more, but to give our people an opportunity to have better and be better. I think as I move through society and as I look at a number of things happening, I am not convinced that we are living our best. And I am not convinced that our people are receiving the best.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to stay away from being on the sidelines and you have to come forward and be a part of that change that you want to see for the betterment of your people. And I think that is what really motivated me to join or to come full time into politics, so to speak,
Okay.
and to want to be a part of the change that I believe is so deserving of our people in Guyana.
Well, we saw GCOM, if we can start from there.
Mhm.
We looked at the list. Um, all along, you weren't hearing anything from GCOM, and of course, the APNU, the
Mhm.
PNC, the
Mhm.
coalition, we were talking about the clean voters list and
Mhm.
biometrics. Do you think if we had gotten those two, the results of the elections would have been different?
It leaves one to wonder if it would have been the same. Um, I have started to do personally. I have started to do a very deep analysis of what transpired in this election 2025. And so I'm looking at a number of trends and I'm looking at a number of issues that were raised. And I am trying to understand really what took place. A part of that analysis will have to include, I think, this call for a clean voters list. I think that has been a call on both sides.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
When
mm-hmm,
the PPP were in opposition,
mm-hmm,
they had called for a clean voters list. And when they got into office, they did nothing to clean the list. I mean, rightly so. They believe that I can benefit from the list.
all
So they
right.
kept it. And then APNU, AFC then went on the other side, being in opposition, started to call for a clean voters list. But I think we are not the only persons who are speaking about this list. I think our international observers have recognized that there is a need for us to revisit this. Because when you don't clean the list, and when we talk about cleaning the list, we're talking about ensuring that the persons who are eligible and that can vote are the ones who appear on the list. And for those who are, whether they're not residing in Guyana, whether they are dead, etc., that there is some form of purging of the list. Because once you keep those things on the list, and you have this very grand number, there's one analyst who contacted me, a colleague of mine in Africa, and he was observing our elections, and he said, but even though you were talking about 700 and something thousand people on the list who are eligible to vote, and then you have about 400 and something people who voted, he said, is it, no, people have been calling on a clean voters list, but are you saying really from a very analytical standpoint, are you saying that there was a very low voters turnout, or that you just have a bloated list and there is need for you to really see when you finish cleaning that list what the number will be? And he makes a very good point, good point. And so I think it's important going forward in any other elections, we must very strongly attack this, because I think it is important for us to be able to have an elections in Guyana. And for all people, listen, everybody will never be satisfied at the results, because everyone, I believe, will campaign very strongly for his or her own party. But at least when persons are able to see the level of transparency and in the electoral process, I think that brings in itself a comfort that people can say, yes, we indeed had a fair fight. And that is what I think you have going on here, where persons are continuing to feel that the fight was not clean enough.
But of course, the fight was not clean enough, because when we look at what has happened over the last 5 years, we recognize that the opposition had no access to any of the state media. If you did letters and you sent them out to the newspapers, newspapers were very choosy with how to print, in terms of printing you got absolutely nothing sometimes going into the Chronicle. And so that by itself posed an uneven ground for any other participant to perform, to contest, who were contesting the elections. We saw the victimization of the small man, let me put it that way, ordinary public servants. If a public servant had on a green t-shirt, that was a problem when they went into work. They were sent home. And so these are all of the cries that we can readily say that these elections were set in a particular way to favor a particular party. As a matter of fact, to favor the People's Progressive Party. When we looked at the venues, political parties would have applied to use venues, and you heard you couldn't use this venue, you couldn't use that venue. But at one time, dates were approved, and then subsequently you were called to say, well, you can't use it anymore. And so this elections could never have been fair with all of these things happening. And then we got the threats. And so if we were to have a fair elections, then all the parties must be given the same kind of play field. We saw after the elections date was announced, after Parliament was prorogued. Was it prorogued? Yes, prorogued. Because I was trying to ensure that I use the right term. Parliament was prorogued. We still saw persons going around and calling themselves ministers and declaring schools open, commissioning schools, and you saw hospitals being declared open. And so that in itself was one way of making the grounds uneven.
Yes.
Once Parliament would have been prorogued, then we don't have ministers any longer. all those kinds of spending and all those kinds of contracts that we saw there, they were all illegal. And we cannot continue to speak about democracy. As an attorney, you,
Yes.
you will tell me, we cannot continue to talk about democracy and democracy and democracy when it only suits me or when it only suits you. And so how do we channel all of this in the right direction? How do we have a clean Guyana Elections Commission? Because we saw what happened there over the 5 years. The chairperson always voted with the government, except for in few instances when she couldn't do anything else but to vote on a matter of principle. How do we address those?
I think there is a number of things which we have to bring back to the table. There has been arguments, I think, for over a year that there needs to be a number of restructuring of institutions in Guyana. But now we are particularly dealing with GCOM. The configuration of GCOM, I believe, has caused many to have a second thought on it. Because I don't think we can no longer accept persons or commissioners who are seeking or are a part of the makeup of GCOM, who hold certain political interests.
Mhm.
This institution is a serious institution that ensures that the most important contest in this country, which is the election, is properly, lawfully, and adequately administered. And you cannot have a political interest when you do that. I believe it's time that we call upon the changes and we advocate for those changes, that GCOM must now see persons who are clearly independent in themselves, and that they are non-partisan to politics, non-partisan to political parties. Because I believe the views and the type of critical approach that we need to see happening at the level of GCOM, I believe it's now important. Because look at it. You have the two major political parties who make up the commissioners, 3-3, and you have the chair who acts as the buffer, so to speak, between the two. But now I believe the other parties who are coming on board will always feel as though I don't have someone there who looks out for my interest. And that is not an institution that we want. That is not the type of thinking we want. We believe that it is time that we see emerging in this society, because our policies, our politics, our level of thinking, everything has developed now. We're not back 20, 30, 40 years ago. We have to think now that it's important that emerging in this society demands that we have persons who do not sit and carry a political interest. Now, one may argue that there is election laws that govern this. But then while you want to see and agree that there are election laws, the administration of that entire elections required not only an approach to law, but requires an approach to understand that we need to do what is in the best interest of Guyana. And what is in the best interest of Guyana cannot be that you have all these irregularities that happen at the hand of GCOM, that will continue. We can't we will sit and we will argue, because I'm sure if you bring persons from the PPP party, they are going to argue that it was quite okay with them because they are in the seat of government. If you bring another party, they are going to say, well, it didn't favor us. That is not what we want. We want to advance this. We want to move the elections process in Guyana to a place where it is so transparent and that persons can see clearly that there is a very clean and level playing field. You mentioned something very, very important about having access to state media, having access to, so that persons can sell the message. I believe it's not only your call and our party's call. This has also been an observation made by the observers that it wasn't a level playing field at all. I mean, you can take whole night and talk about the type of election spending that we saw in this election.
Yes.
My gosh. I mean, so there are a number of things I believe has happened which must cause us to advocate at all levels for there to be a number of changes. Especially now, we may very well need to have legislation when it comes to campaign financing and so forth, because we need to put all parties at a level playing field that persons are able to sell the message. One of the things I've observed in this election, few people took the time to read the manifesto. All right, many of the young people that I was interacting with, when you ask them about the manifesto and what do they think about it, they were just able to give you very short bites, and those were the bites I believe were coming out of our ads. But the depth of understanding the manifesto, many of them didn't take time, even though it was available publicly, didn't take time to read and to understand that this was one of the best put together manifesto that would have benefited all people in Guyana. But I'll tell you what, we will hold that manifesto because we believe it's in the best interest of our people, and we will advocate. We will advocate at every level for there to be benefits for our people and our people to be placed first.
Well, and as much as we talk about that, we cannot ignore the fact that GCOM kept changing the rules all along. They spoke about no cell phones in the booth, but yet we saw pictures on Facebook where persons took out their ballot showing the party that they voted for. And they were supposed to have called the police in and to have those issues investigated. We are not hearing anything about that. And so, again, it is just one thing over another thing and another thing, and they're just being swept under the carpet. So it therefore means that we have to go out there and champion the cause for new laws.
Yes, of course.
We cannot continue to work this way. The other thing I want to point out and to have your comment on is biometrics. We have seen in quite a lot of the private sector, in quite a lot of those places, you when you go in there, you use you sign in your time by touching with your finger there, you clock in your time. You go through the airport. And we, over the last 10 years, with all the monies that we have here, we still can't have that, which is, I don't know, you tell me, or you tell the viewers.
If we remember what the argument was of the chair, that there was going to be, that the time was a bit too limited for there to be the implementation of biometrics for the 2025 elections.
But let me stop you. The chairman of GCOM knows fully well that every 5 years, for every 5-year cycle, we are going to have elections. So GCOM ought to have been preparing themselves for either September, October, November, December elections. And so while I understand what they have been attempting to say, it still doesn't make sense.
And it is still not acceptable.
Still not acceptable.
Because Ghana, for example, they were able to implement biometrics, the use of biometrics, in set up with just over 6 weeks.
6 weeks. And they got millions of people.
6 weeks.
They got millions of people. We got less than 800 persons.
Yes.
And half of those people voted.
Yes.
And so it is disgusting every time you have to look. I know some persons are going to say, well, they lose and they're trying to make all kinds of excuses, but these are the facts. They were out there ever since. And nobody seemed to want to do anything because it favored me. So I ain't got no time with that. But
Well, I want persons to be clear on this. You let me be clear. There are no losers in this, you know. We don't consider ourselves losers at all. We had an opportunity to sell a clear message, and to share a vision for Guyana, which we believe will advance our people and put our people on the right path. There may have been, I see this as a delay. I don't see this as being a loss. I see this as being a delay. There is a delay in delivering what I believe what APNU will be able to do for the people of Guyana. Just a delay. But I always say a delay is not a denial.
that's true.
So I don't see this as people ask, you know, one colleague called me, said, Todd, what is your mental state? And I'm saying, what do you mean mental state? I'm of course disappointed that the message did not get to resonate and receive well by our people, because I believe a lot of persons as well did not come out to vote. I believe some people did not come out to vote.
True. That is true.
But I think this delay allows us to continue on the same path of educating our people, of interacting with our people, and making them to understand that the vision for Guyana and the way in which their lives can be developed in this country is not one that ought to be swept under the carpet, all because we are not in government. Because I am saying this elections has highlighted a number of things. Campaigning, meeting with the people, you see real poverty. You see real trouble at some levels. And I'm telling you, we cannot erase that from our minds. And we will not erase that from our minds. We will remember that our people require help. Our people require direction. They require encouragement. They require that level of support. And we're going to give them, because that is what we do as a responsible party. We recognize that there are going to be some level of organizing and to be able to deal with this dynamics now that the party has found itself. But it is not at a place that we will not be able to deliver to our people. And I believe delivery is going to be accelerated in a very magnificent way, and the message is going to be going to reach our people. It's going to reach our people.
And so again, we have to move in the direction where we don't only talk about change in one sector or two sectors, but in every sector across this country. We have to effect the kind of changes we need to benefit our people, so that at no time, I'm going to use this term here loosely, at no time our people are going to feel, or one set of people or two sets of people or two groups of two ethnic groups are going to feel left behind. All citizens must feel that they have the right to walk, to talk, to associate, to assemble anywhere, and we must be safe about it. And while we're on that, in terms of assembling and so on, we have seen just about 2 days ago, I think it was, where the Honorable former Minister Simona Brooms, with our party, writing a letter there, highlighting the plight of one of a young man who was a member of her party, where he is living. I think he's living on the west coast of Berbice. He's a driver, and he has been transferred to Port Morant Hospital. Now, that in itself is wicked. It's disgusting. It's blatant, and it is one act of driving fear not into only one citizen, but many, many other citizens. So you did not vote for us. You were with another party. So you travel from the west coast of Berbice to Port Morant. And if our viewers know where the west coast of Berbice is and where Port Morant is, it means that you're crossing another region. So it's region 5 and region 6. How do you get there every day as a driver, whether you're driving the ambulance or wherever? How do you get there every day when your salary is just about maybe $75,000, $80,000, $100,000 per month? How do you cope with that? And so these are all of the things that we have to look at. If we're going to talk about a Guyana that is free, we have to look at all of these issues. We have looked at the, well, of course, we don't want to get into all of that, but we talked about the polling booth and how it was supposed to be set up. We talked about, we looked at Jamaica. They had their elections on the 3rd, and by 9:30 the night, you knew exactly who the winner was. And here in Guyana, we had less people again, and you couldn't get the results, and all kinds of back and forth, and all kind of wrong tallying, and all kinds of things. And so it leaves one to wonder whether the stage was set in that way to create, maybe they wanted to create a kind of reaction from the populace to walk the streets. And I know, of course, the police force were already there set with their guns, maybe to shoot citizens. But the kind of reaction they wanted, they did not get that kind of reaction. And so I want to say, kudos to our people here. Our people understood what the message was that was written on the wall there, and we did not fall for it. We read the message, we understood it clearly, and we did not fall for that. So there was no kind of interruption. And oh yes, we're seeing people talking about Win stole the coalition's manifesto, or Win stealing the coalition's manifesto. That's another part of the story. We'll talk about it another time. But Dexter, I want you to be able to say with me, that those of our supporters who went with Win, we understand the circumstances that might have pushed you there. We understand that within that 23 years period of the PPP, all that they professed out there was to get rich quick and die young. Corruption, more this, more that, more that. And so that's the kind of mentality that our people within that age range, that is what they would have come up with. So everything is about money and money. It's not about morals and so on anymore. And that's where we have to return to, teaching our children from a tender age good values and principles, so that when they get into the schools, they are going to know how to operate at schools, how to respect the opinions of their peers, and to know that bullying is not something good, to know that they have to work together regardless of the color of their skin or the texture of their hair. We are one people, we have to work together. And so we've got some work to do. We've got that kind of mentality, that materialistic mentality to erase. And more than that, we have to start teaching our people the history of this country. This country has a rich history. And we have recognized what the PPP have been doing here is trying to erase the history and rewrite the history of this country. If you look at what they have been doing, everything about Forbes Burnham, they've tried to erase and wash it out. When you look at, as a matter of fact, Anil on a campaign platform spoke about how coffee was a proud house slave. I didn't know that. And if that's a part of history that was left out, then we've got to be able to teach that in school. But that is absolutely not so. If coffee were a proud house slave, coffee would not have started. They would not have had a rebellion. So this is what they do all the time. They try to erase our history. And we have to go back to the drawing table and to ensure that we put that as one of our priorities, to teach our people, to let them understand this was so, that was so, the other was so. Free education was there before. It was only reintroduced now. It was there before. And so, when we talk about free education, I want the operator to just show us that picture that he just put up there. where we're talking about free education, but this is what is happening in our schools. And when we commission a school here, and we commission a school there, and we commission another school somewhere else, and the schools that are in existence, we are doing absolutely nothing to make these schools better than they are.
Yeah.
And so on the first day of school, a little child is attending Mackenzie High School, grade 7, just finished writing the grade 6 examinations, going into grade 7, first time in a secondary school. And this is what is happening to this learner. You have that one there for us, operator. This is what is happening to this learner, much to the annoyance of his grandmother, who was a teacher. She retired as a head teacher. This is what her grandson had to face, sitting on a bench. I'm not sure where he's going to be writing, but this is what that child had to face in school, the first day of school. And this is Mackenzie High School. This is not a school that just popped up like that.
Yeah.
This is a school that has been there for long, produced distinguished citizens in this country, you know, and this is where this child has got to stay. And the thing is, we had 2 months vacation. 2 months vacation. Now, I would want, at this point, I don't know how you are going to look at it, but at this point, I would want to ask that the minister go home. Well, we ain't got a minister of education yet, but that the education officers in region number 10, they should be made to answer for this. This is total incompetence.
Yes,
I mean, and is this what we want to go on? This is how we want to continue. Just today, another parent called me to say that her grade 11 child was told that they have to bring furniture to the school, their own personal furniture. I mean, with all the monies that we're talking about, and of course, we're going to bring Poor People Governor in just a few. We're going to bring him. I guess we'll have to share mics, but we're going to bring him in because we have to talk about these things here. We cannot allow these kinds of nonsense to pass. When we move further down, operator, if you could show us the other one. Here is a head teacher banging here, asking for help, and nobody is helping her. And this has not been yesterday cry, or day before yesterday cry, or the day before cry. This teacher, she taught at St. Pius in South Georgetown. And then she opted to go into the interior. Maybe we can have what the head teacher is saying too. She opted to go into the hinterlands to teach because you recognize that we don't have quite a lot of trained teachers who were there. Right. So she opted to leave the comfort of her home on the coast to venture into the hinterland. She is living in the teachers' quarters. There's an agreement that says when teachers from the coast go out there, you must be provided with an accommodation. You must be provided with a bed. We don't expect you to have a palace for them to prepare a palace for you, right, but you must have a bed, a stove, a suite, running water, proper lighting, and those kinds of things. And here is this teacher crying out again for help. When she went there, the room was empty. The place was empty. She had to ship her own furniture in. She had to be weeding around. She had to fix the lighting. She had to fix the bathroom. The toilet wasn't proper. And this teacher still continued to give of her best. And now here she is again yesterday. She's so frustrated that she posted it on Facebook. And she's asking them for all of these things, all of these things, all of these things. I mean, it's disgusting.
It is.
And we talk about the country with the fastest growing economy. And we're talking about how we commissioning this school, state of the art school. And what is happening here? Is this how we value our indigenous people? That's how we value them?
Prioritizing has always been an issue. And you see, that is what we keep saying even from the campaign level. That it's not an issue of you building all these schools. What you have to do is also, and what is also equally important, is for you to recognize that maintaining the ones that you have is very key. And so you cannot have a situation while you commission this school here, commission that school there, but the ones that have been in existence, those ones are further deteriorating. and the students who are attending those are not having the best of condition for learning. And so it's important for us to make a call and for persons to recognize that we are never against development, but we have always been saying prioritizing and how you manage the investments across the education sector is what has caused concern. And that is how sometimes we have to come and say it's unacceptable for persons or students, children, to be learning in these types of conditions. I mean, looking at the child going to school on the first school week,
first day of
fixed school, and to be met with such an environment, I think it's unacceptable. All right, because at the end of the day, you want to encourage students. You want to show them that. I mean, look at the condition.
Now, this here is the DC Fox Secondary School. This is in Upper Mass, DC Fox Secondary School, and they have been crying out all the time about what is happening with them. And this is the condition of this school. Operator, you're going to flick those pictures through so the viewers could see. This has been the cry of these people all along, and nobody seemed to be paying them any mind. And if you notice, this again is a location where our indigenous brothers and sisters have to send their children to.
They need and they require and they deserve more and better. And I believe in this time, this is should be a very important call for whoever is going to be heading the Ministry of Education to be put on notice that this has to be rectified, because this is not the condition our students should be attending and having to be subjected to learn under at all.
I mean, this school has been in existence for a long, long time. And nobody could say that they have not been receiving reports of what has been happening at this school. It has been there for a long time. And for you to ignore this, it means that you are denying our children of a proper education. That's simply what it is saying. Or you're saying to our children, education is not important, or education is just wishy-washy, and so anything could happen here. And we cannot continue to accept this. And I want to put the government on notice that it's not going to be business as usual. We will pull all of these out, and we will expose them every time we have the opportunity to. We are going to expose them. And so while some of the narrow-minded ones will come up and talk about all kinds of foolishness, these are the facts, and facts remains facts. You can't hide facts. We're going to bring Poor People Governor on, because we're going to be wrapping up in a few. But, Dr. Todd, I don't know if you would have had, how would you have felt if you had your child there? Because at DC Fox, we have dorms there too. And if this is what the school is looking like, then I could imagine what is happening with the dorms. And I'm talking about dorms, it reminds me here of what transpired in Madia.
Yes.
Are we serious about ensuring that our children are safe?
And I think as leaders, it is very simple for us to question and for us to feel how other parents are feeling, to have their children subjected to that, by just asking the question to ourselves, would I want my child to attend that? And if your answer is no, then you have the answer. You have the answer as a leader that no child must be subjected to that type of condition, because you wouldn't subject your own child to that to go to school and to sit for hours in a learning environment like that.
I mean, how much learning could take place in an environment like that?
It's
and so you understand why our attendance rate and our dropout rate is so high. Because when children are not given the kind of atmosphere, when it's not conducive, then they don't want to come to school.
That's right.
And so we boast about 29 subjects and 26 subjects and 20 grade ones and so on. But we don't talk about the masses who would not have been able to acquire 5 subjects or 6 subjects, including math and English. We don't talk about them at all.
Yes.
All we do, we focus on the 1%. The same thing at grade 6. The grade 6 assessment, we have over 15,000 writing that exams. But by the time they get to 5th form, what do we have? Less than half.
Yes.
And there's no system to capture those, no system in place to capture those. But yet we boast about, the 100, the top 100 at grade 6, who got QC and who got bishops and who got this and who got that. But then we don't talk about the rest. We talk about offering cash grant. Excuse me. We talk about offering cash grant. And you know what we do? Again, we behave like GCOM. We go and we prop up the system, where we go into all them little cracks and so on, and we try to pull the children out and get their parents to come to collect the 55,000. Where did I get that 100,000 from? The coalition, 120. They go and they pull them out to collect the 55,000 and make a big bacchanal about it. But after they would have collected the 55,000, 2 mornings after, that's the end of it, because they're not coming to school again. When they hear that the monies are going to be distributed again, they come out a day or 2, they attend school. But there's nobody there following them up. And so every time we continue to fail our people, we continue to fail our children. And these are the children who will grow up, or who are growing up, to become adults and to become leaders. And they can't become leaders if they're not educated. No wonder we are at this rate. We're not Dexter Todd saying it, or Coretta McDonald, the international saying, with all the monies that we have, how much percent poverty we have? Over 40%?
Over 40%.
Over 40% of Guyanese are living in poverty, below the poverty line. And so I don't know what we're boasting about. If you're a country so rich, then you ought to ensure that your people,
of course,
are well taken care of. But rather than taking care of our people, we hurry to bring Bangladeshis in, those from Venezuela, those from all over. We bring them and we make them first-class citizens. Because the elections would have shown us that, where we saw on the ID card, Commonwealth.
Yes.
I didn't know Commonwealth was a nationality, but we're seeing Commonwealth. And then we're seeing dates, July 5th, ID cards would have been issued, when all of that was cut off. But certain people could have gotten ID cards, and the real people could not have gotten their ID cards then. But again, like we said, we have to change all of that. I don't know if we are ready for Poor People Governor. I know he was engaged in something else, but we're going to talk a little more while we have, because, Poor People Governor is so popular that everybody wants him. So he was here with us, and then he went off to be on another forum.
Responsible for what he says.
Of course. So we're just going to take just give us 2 minutes break. So we're going to have Dr. Todd doing his wrap up, and the Poor People Governor doing his wrap up, and then we're going to take a wrap on the program for this evening. Right. So you see me here. I have my brothers here with me, and I feel so good. I feel so comfortable. I feel safe with them. I don't have to worry that some one of them is going to try something with me, because, on a list somewhere, they got a semi-rapist or an accused rapist. I feel comfortable with my brothers here. So, Poor People Governor, It's so good to have you here. And we always feel confident when we hear you speak on your program. I know we've had the crime wave. We talk about the crime wave. I heard the commissioner of police talking about the crime wave and it's down. But I don't know which one of you is going to take a rap on that very quickly. Crime wave.
Well, I'm not too sure what stats they're using, because I think we continue to see, and we're monitoring this from the amount of charges that are being placed before the courts on a daily basis. We're following the news, and we're seeing clearly that we're starting to see some crimes emerging now that is cause for some worry. And so I'm not too sure what they're talking about, what stats they're using to give them that indication. But whatever bubble they're in, we hope that it's burst at some point in time, and they recognize that we who are the citizens are concerned about the crime wave in this country.
Yeah. Even as we speak about the crime wave, we see recently that they had a shooting with well-known social media personality Lola Dahl, where she was riddled with bullets in front of her home. So when the chief speaking about crime, I don't know if he's excluding that or including it, but I want to say especially, our thoughts goes out with her and our prayers at this time, and we hope that she really and truly pull through. And no one deserves that, regardless of the situation, and the commissioner of police, like we have said before, needs to go, and we still hold our view that he really and truly needs to go.
Well, I want to thank you for being here with us. And we all join in wishing Lola Doll speedy recovery. I know that she's a strong woman. We are not judges, and everybody has got their own style of doing what they do. But whatever it is, it is not acceptable for someone to pull out a gun and to riddle another human being. Not even a dog, we wouldn't want that happen to. And so we want to extend best speedy recovery to Lola Doll, and to let her know that she's in our thoughts and our prayers. And whatever we can do at our end to offer counseling and that kind of thing, we are ready and willing to do that. And this in itself, it's doing two things. It's empowering some to be more lawless, and it's driving fear into another set of people. And we cannot continue to have a society like that. Attorney, I'm sure you would agree with me.
I would agree. That there is need for our society to be riddled from this level of violence that we see permeating at every corner. And I believe some of the things that we will have to do, we'll have to go back to encouraging our young people that they are, you see, the thing comes down as well to opportunities as well, and to identify what types of opportunities are there for our young people to help them to be meaningfully engaged. And this is something I think that we were advocating that we were going to do a lot for our young people. And so you can't really talk about crime even from an intellectual standpoint without really getting down to the root causes of crime. And when you look at the root causes of crime, you'd recognize that the issues of poverty and unemployment, etc., and all of these things are pushing that. So people are where you got people just for a little hustle, all right, and will just rob someone, or would shoot someone, or would commit some form of injury to the person just for a couple dollars to survive, is something that is real in our society. And I think there comes a time where we have to stop sugarcoating it, and we have to look at it very, 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 very analytically and very critically, because these are things that we need to highlight, and it's affecting us. We want to have a safe society, but having a safe society, we can't only talk about that. There are practical things that we have to do which will make our society better. And it must include a professionalized police force. It cannot be a situation where you have a police force where the members of the public can't trust you, or they have no respect for you, or they don't see that you act fairly. So listen, the elections are over. I want to make that clear. The elections are over, and we are not going to spend our time talking about elections. We have to be able to understand, to let persons know from in every walks of life that there are real issues affecting this country, and we have to attack those real issues. And people must not see it and view it that it has a political undertone. It has a very pure, honest intention, which is that we want what is best for our people. And we as leaders are going to be advocating for that.
Well said. And I would want to concur, and I'm sure my brother here is going to concur, that we want a society that is free, a society that is safe, a society where all of us can have access to the resources that are made available, whether you live in the Northwest, or you live in Lethem, or you live in Oriala, or you live on the Quarantine, or you live in Mocha, or you live in the Namstel, or you live at Tain, or you live at Lenora. All of us must have access to what is being offered in this country, because we are all bona fide Guyanese. With that, I want to thank you two gentlemen for being here with me. And indeed, it was a pleasure having you here. I know that we're going to be hearing from you sometime soon again, because I know the appetite of our viewers here on Advancing the Cause. You would have just touched on the tip of the iceberg of their appetite, and they're going to want to hear more from us, more so since we are going to be going into Parliament. Our folks are going to be going into Parliament. We're going to be at different forums. They would want to see what we're doing. They would want to hear from us, which will be bringing the kind of hope that they need. Of course, we want to remind you that APNU is alive. We will continue to be alive. All we have to do now is some remodeling and some reshaping here. And we are going to go out there again to get our people who were, I don't want to say stolen from us, but our people who walked another path. We are going to be there to bring them under this umbrella again, and to say to you, we always put people first, and we will continue to do that. One love, Guyana. One people, one nation, one destiny. That's all for now on Advancing the Cause. I do wish you a safe rest of the week, and I trust that as we continue to go along for the rest of the week, that we'll remind someone, our neighbor, our friend, our workmate, that you are important, we are important, I am important, and that this country owes all of us a living at the same level. God bless you all.